Hello everybody to this third day of the B&W Webinar Week, and welcome to our presentation with the topic Automated Color Coding in Only a Few Steps. Before we start, I want to introduce us shortly. Our speaker is Jan Stotfang, the CEO of B&W Software. Today he shows us the process of how you can quickly and automatically color your CAD models yourself. I am Franziska Osterburg, Marketing Manager at B&W Software and your moderator for today. So perhaps you've already heard one or two webinars the last days, and just in case you didn't, here are some information. So the webinars are all recorded and we put them later on YouTube, just in case you want to see a part again and try it out for yourself. Jan does the presentation and a live demo in Creo Parametric. And after that, we have a Q&A session to answer all your questions. For that, you can ask any question you want in the question functionality of the GoToWebinar software. And in the end, we will answer them collectively. Yes, and if you don't have the time for all the questions, we will contact you directly. So with that, I want to hand over to Jan and have fun and a great webinar.
Thanks, Franziska, for the short introduction, and a very warm welcome from my side, from Germany. A cold autumn afternoon in here. I don't know what time zone you're in, so we're 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. And well, my presentation today will be all around color coding, and well, I'll do a little bit of an introduction and motivation first, but this will be only a very quick introduction because I want to spend more time on the color coding process using SmartColor. I will focus on the general software process, how the administrator will structure the software and do the preparations, and later look at the user workflow, how the user would see this in his environment. I will first do a few slides and later show this live in Creo and Smart Annotate. After that, I'll summarize everything in a short slide again, and then we'll open it up for the Q&A session. Well, that's the agenda for the next about 30-35 minutes, and I directly will start with today's topic, the color coding. Well, color coding itself, you know it by yourself, your models, your assemblies. Well, you can do a lot of things with it. For example, distinction of components in an assembly. You can highlight areas of interest in your parts with different options. You can visualize material properties, and you can transfer PMI information to downstream processes and many, many more. Today, I'll a little bit more or deeper look into the PMI transfer, and this is what I want to show today at this example, having a cavity plate from an injection mold tool that is uncolored first, and on the bottom you'll see the resulting color-coded model. And I will show how this works in the SmartColor software. Well, at first, a general overview of the workflow of SmartColor itself. It's only 3 steps that the software takes. First, it's a surface selection, and this can be achieved by 2 ways. It's either a rule-based automatic selection, or it can be a manual selection by a user interaction. If this selection has been made, the software can take action. And first of all, well, the name says it, the software will apply colors to the selected surfaces. Secondly, this is very new in the software, it also can apply surface parameters to the selected surfaces. And finally, it can display legend symbols that are associative to the selected surfaces and are flat to screen annotations in every combined state. And finally, the last task is we prepared export and publish options for STEP, JT, and Creo View export or publishing. Well, let's go into a perspective of the administrator, and he has to do a few preparations, and a few of them are in Creo Parametric itself, and a few are in SmartColor. Within Creo, administrator has to provide the legend symbols. These are regular Creo symbols, and the functionality for that hasn't been changed since at least 20 years. So I assume everybody is familiar with creating a symbol in Creo. Well, it might not be the nicest UI to create symbols, but that's a different topic. So I will not show this today, but I will show very quickly that you have to provide the required combined states and appearance states in the models. Within SmartColor, the administrator has to set up a structure. I will show this in a second and later on in the live presentation. He has to look at the color definitions and finally prepare rule definitions and rule set definitions. Well, if he opens up SmartColor from Creo Parametric and he directly comes into the content manager. And the very first thing he may do is enter the name of a global context parameter. That's a regular parameter in the model. In my case, well, I called it B&W class. And well, you can give it different values. And these values will finally allow the software to take action on this value. This is what I share later as well. The next thing the administrator needs to do is to set up a context structure. This can be a very simplistic thing like 1 and 2 entries, but it even can be an unlimited tree of different situations that you might have in your company. If you open up one of these entries, you'll see you have to enter label, description, and so on. And more important, this parameter value I just spoke about. And the most important thing, the name of the combined state that this context is interacting with. The next thing is on the right side of this dialog, there's the content that he needs to look on. Well, this is the color categories, but it's also the color definitions itself, the rule definitions, and the rule sets. If those are prepared, it's very simple to assign these color categories and rule sets to the content structure, and this will be shown in the assigned content tree. Let's look at the color definition itself. So if you're just creating a new color definition, you at first have to enter again a very important ID, because this is the reference later on for a lot of things. You can add a label, a description, and then, well, the very obvious thing, you have to choose the color itself. The RGB values, transparency, reflection, highlighting, and whatever you can choose within the Creo system. In addition, you can enter process data. So for example, offset tolerance or surface profile tolerance value, a position tolerance value, or even a surface finish information. Next information that's needed is if you want to add a legend symbol, you have to select a symbol. It can be a group symbol like in here, well, where the group is the tolerance group. That's what you get out of your Creo system. And for the convenience, you can add variable text, so you don't have to apply multiple symbols for multiple colors. So you can reuse the symbol just using these variable texts inside. And finally, on the bottom, you can enter metadata. So you can enter any number of surface parameter that should be associated to this color. If you've provided these color definitions, you can, or you have to, collect them in a color category, just a collection of colors. It's very similar to the colors is the rule definition. You enter a new rule, you enter a label, a description, and now you choose one of the previous defined colors. In my case, there's already a few in the configuration. The next thing is you have to look at an objective. And there's two available right now. You either can color code surfaces directly, or you can even choose kilts from your model. The next task is to drill down the collection summary of these surfaces. So you have so-called criterion. In my case here, you have a parameter name with a name put in or a value, but there is many more criterion options that you can choose from. Another idea to nail down the surfaces is by so-called container. A container can be either a group or even a feature, a pattern, a component, or even a layer where this surface is into. If you have created your rules that you think that you need, you put them in a rule set that you later on assign to your structure. That's what an administrator has to do. If you now look at the workflow the user faces, well, he opens up a model and thinks, well, that's what I want to color code now. He needs to make sure that the combined states and the appearance states are available in the part. If it's perfectly administrated, the user can choose from templates where all this is already in there. Then he opens SmartColor, applies a base appearance. That's kind of a fallback if he wants to go back to or remove colors from the model. Then he runs the rule-based color coding or even applies colors manually. The next step is just pushing a button and the software will create legend symbols. Finally, he can choose for any export options or do any screenshots or whatever to transfer this information to downstream processes. This looks like this when he opens SmartColor the first time for applying rules. The software itself looks at this context parameter and goes into this context first. This is tied to the same name of the combined state in the model. He can apply the complete list of the rules that are tied to this context, or he can even deselect most of the rules and apply only a few of them. The apply button just does it and runs the color application. Next button creates the symbols. And if the user is logged in as a SmartColor administrator, he can directly manipulate and tweak the rules from here. If the user switches to manual selection, the second tab, he can choose from a different list of colors, and he even can choose the color category. In my case, I already have a few categories in my configuration. Then I can use the single selection and pick one by one colors, surfaces that are colored with this respective color. Or I can use the more advanced selection tools like seed and boundary selection. And finally, I just have to create my symbols. That's very much of the presentation I wanted to give, and I'm switching now over to Creo Parametric for my live presentation. Well, this is my Creo session. Right now I'm on Creo 4 because most of you are on Creo 4 as well. So I did choose this version. I've prepared a single cavity plate from my injection mold tool. And you see, I already used combined states for different purposes. Well, there's an empty one, there's a working one, a combined state showing all the datums I have in here. But there's already two in here that have color coding with them. And you can see if I hover over the symbols, the legend symbols here, that these are associative information with the model. A different color set shows me the function of different entities in my part. Yeah, so this is what I have here, and what I want to do in my today's demo. I want to create a new combined state showing threads, threaded holes, either if there are a metric 5 or a metric 6 hole. This is what I want to prepare right now here. So the first thing at all, I need to have a combined state and appearance state. And as I'm a little bit lazy on that, I'm using Smart Update for this task and check if this is being in here. Yeah, so I'm checking if there's a combined state called webinar. There's not. So I'm letting them create a combined state, an appearance state, and apply the appearance state to the combined state. So that's a very simple task. Close in here. Here's my new webinar combined state. And just redefine it for verification. Well, my appearance state, also a new appearance here is entered in my webinar combined state. So that's the preparation for me as in the Creo system itself. And now I'm switching over to the administrator in SmartColor. Open up the ConNet Manager. I already have the B&W class parameter set in here, and that's already set in my part. So just let me create a new webinar. Well, give it a parameter value, combined state, I call it webinar because I have created the webinar combined state previously. So that's okay for now. We are here, and the next task is to create a color. There's two ways to start with that. So one way is just to start from scratch and create a new one, but I'm a little bit lazy as well here, and I'm just using an existing one and copying it and just redefining. So this is a new color, getting a new ID and a complete new name. Webinar thread M5. No description today, but modifying the color a little bit here. Yeah, okay, but no, we make it a little bit more light. Let's do it like this. So no transparency, nothing like this. Process data, okay, there's a position tolerance in here, so I leave that alone so far. And for my convenience and laziness, I don't have to enter the symbol information again. So because this symbol has been used already, and I just reuse the same information here because these are all parameters. But what I want to do is create a surface parameter with it. Create a parameter, and this is called SC for SmartColor. Thread. And the value, in my case, 5. So that's okay for me. And again, I'm copying this one for my second color that I want to show. Again, a new ID, and in this case, I'm using M6. Now, I want to do a little bit different color here, using a reddish style. Well, my process data, so for the reason of distinguishing things, I do a different value here. I reuse the symbol, but for sure, I do another number to my surface parameter. So I now have these 2 new colors, and I'm creating a new color category. I just call it webinar as well. And I see there is already a default color in my category itself, and I'm just adding the other 2 colors. Well, W is at the very end, so here we are. And again, the 6 here. So just use a sign, and this is entered in my context structure relating to the webinar context. So that's all about the colors. Now, rules. In this case, I'm starting really from scratch, adding a new rule, giving a name, metric 5. I'm using my new colors, M5 here. I have my objective as a surface. Yes, that's what I want. And now I want to add the criteria. In my case, I want to start with a surface type. And well, I think that's clear. I'm started with cylinders. And in my example, I don't want to look at containers, so like features or groups, so I delete this for the moment. I leave that for like this for now, just for showing this later a little bit in more detail and graphics. So we are here, a new rule, and I just copy this once again from M5 in M6, choose the different color, M6 here, and I'm leaving this alone as well. Create a new rule set. Again, give it a name, webinar. Adding my 2 rules, thread M5 and thread M6. And don't forget to assign the rule set to the content. Save the configuration and start in Creo Parametric and use color coding. So as I'm in my context already, webinar, it already goes into the webinar section, and I have my 3 rules here, base body surface, and the 2 created rules that I want to deselect in the first place to very slowly show what happens in the software. Make this a little bit bigger here. And just apply base body surface. Apply. Well, all surfaces are colored with a transparent color right now. And I activate the second one here. Just say apply again. It takes a little longer because it has to look at the surfaces in detail right now. And it colors, as we told it, all the cylindrical surfaces that SmartColor can find in a model. So that's not what we really intended. And so we're going into the rule and redefining it to get a better result and refining the result here. So I'm adding a new criterion, and just for making it clear what happens here, adding a new criterion that only uses closed cylinder files. So just go in here, apply, and you'll see that all the radius surfaces are not anymore colored. And so we can go in and refine this very quickly. So the next criterion I want to use is has thread. This filter here, has thread, has a subcriterion, and you can choose a diameter or a parameter name from this feature. In my case, I'm using the diameter. Well, it's 5. And for the completeness reason, I'm using another criterion to specify the core, the core diameter of the hole. For M5 hole or thread, that's 4.2. That's hopefully all. Let's apply. And software only finds the holes that have a M5 thread in here. So knowing this, I really quickly can do my M6 thing. Well, very same approach. Go for a closed cylinder. Go for has thread. Enter a diameter. In this case, well, different. It's 6. And go for the core diameter here. That's 5. That's it for the now. Select my rule and apply everything in here. Well, you see there's also a few M6 threads in my model. And finally, what I can do is I can create my symbols. This takes a little while because the software not only creates the symbols and shows them, but also created an annotation feature in the footer of the model tree where all the associated surfaces are referenced. So here is my, close this dialog by now. Here's my associative legend symbols that you will have with it right now. So to show that even the surface parameter have been applied, I have to select the surface directly because a surface parameter is not that good visible like a color. So let's zoom in here and ask this little question to the surface. Well, and it shows the color, the color codes, the position tolerance value, and of course, the surface parameter that I've just entered with it. And this is the very same case if I'm using one of those. Different value, different color, but also everything added to it. That already brings me to the end of my live demonstration, and I'm switching back to my presentation. So here we are, and allows me for a short summary. Well, the demonstration of the PMI application via color coding is not the only use case you can envision. You can even do a lot more with PMI if you like. You can use parameters a lot more. This is a thing we'll have a webinar on in a few minutes, so half an hour. In half an hour, we'll talking a little bit more about these parameters. If the preparation is perfectly done upfront from the administrator, a user can very quickly and reliably apply colors automatically or even manually to a model. The beauty of the RGB values is that they transfer nicely to neutral systems or neutral interfaces like STEP, and the results that you get out of Creo View, for example, are fantastic. So you even get the combined states in a Creo View a session, and you can even retrieve the associativity to the legend symbols. So that's really powerful mechanisms to transfer PMI information to downstream processes. Okay, and well, I think before I open it up to the Q&A session, I want to have a look at our webinar table, and this leaves only 2 webinars for today. I told you about the webinar about how parameters and colors work together. So this will focus on a little bit more on the value of the parameters. And finally, we'll have another webinar in the process chain, and this will show how the color and the process information even flow into the final electrode design. Yes, and so I think I'm close this for now and ask Franziska if there are any questions.
Thank you, Jan, for the presentation first. So, and you feel free to ask any question. So there is already one question about the surface parameters. Are surface parameters deleted when colors are removed?
So the question is about if I remove a color, are the parameters removed as well? There's two ways to answer this. Well, initially in this configuration, no, they are not removed, but you can use colors to remove the parameters. So there is an option that you can set that you can remove parameters automatically by rules from the surfaces again.
Okay, thank you. Hope that this will help you with this answer. And there's another question about rule definition. Can surfaces be chosen by feature type?
Okay, so this is about the surface criteria. Well, yes, you can filter down the surface selection by feature type. So this is within the containers that I didn't show today. You can choose a container and use any kind of feature types that you want to look at. So yes, it's definitely possible.
Okay, thank you. So there aren't any questions at the moment anymore. So I think we can go on. And yeah, thank you for your attention. And if you have later any questions, feel free to ask us or our product manager, Fabian Wolf. And if you want to have a demo version just to try out for yourself, please contact us too. And if you want to know when the next webinars are, feel free to subscribe to our newsletter. We are informing you when about the next webinars. And of course, as mentioned earlier, we have a YouTube channel, and we will put all the webinars of this week there, so you can have a look at it. So I want to say thank you to Jan for the presentation, and thank you listening to us here, and have a great day and stay healthy. Goodbye.